Hey y'all, it's Moon Thomas, your social media insurance advisor. You are officially plugged into the Big Insurance Connect. On this episode of the Big Insurance Connect, I had a real conversation with Celeste. She's one of my community resource partners and an extension of my relationship with South Care in the Division of Special Considerations, which focuses on assisting individuals with disabilities and special needs. I know there's not enough conversation about this topic and you don't want to miss it. Let's check it out. I have the pleasure today of speaking with Celeste. She is one of my community resource partners in terms of pre-arranging or pre-needs, in which people will hear me talk about repeatedly the importance of pre-planning for your inevitable. I never use the D word. Okay, so Celeste, welcome to the Big Insurance Connect. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. And I just thought it was very important for me to just bring you on because you are someone that I do lean on in terms of, helping when I have, some complicated, situations or, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm doing the right thing when I'm meeting clients. And I just thought it was just really important for us to just talk about the fact that we have clients sometimes that have challenging health conditions such as special needs. And, there are resources available for them because I know in the insurance world, sometimes that is a challenge of being covered. Yes. So I just really wanted to just welcome you today and just kind of get your take on, what we can, shed some light on this subject.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to help in any way. Just to give you a little bit of back history on how we came to be, there was a young mom, and this was probably 30-something years ago, that worked for an insurance company, and she wanted to get coverage on her son that had Down syndrome. And she went into her boss's office and, said, "Hey, I want to get coverage on my son." And he said, "We don't cover those people." And of course, as a mom, she was ready to, take things in her hands, not so nicely, because she never wanted anybody else to come across that situation. Plus, she felt the need to have some type of coverage set aside for her son for end of life expenses. Exactly. So that's kind of where the concept came from, because, here's a situation where an individual had special needs and couldn't find coverage.
I love that story because, everybody needs an advocate, in my opinion. That's one of the things that I feel like I am positioning myself and doing the most out in these, pre-need streets is really being an advocate for my clients. And so when I do meet someone and, they are, presenting me with, certain challenges that they had, what should we be looking for? So, what in general are some of the special needs that mostly, you've run into?
Very good question. And I know that there are probably a lot of people, in our world that have been diagnosed with some type of special need and intellectual disability. It could be a physical disability. It could be, something happened to them. They were in a motorcycle wreck, at a young age or something. That's a physical disability. But interestingly enough, while some people may be diagnosed with some type of special needs, doesn't mean everybody necessarily either identifies or has filed to receive some type of government benefit as a result of their disability, or even may necessarily qualify. Right. But most of them, you find there's a type of disability that a lot of times prevents them from having regular insurance coverage, whereas with the type of product you have, they're guaranteed issue. They will not be declined due to their disability whatsoever, whether it's intellectual or developmental disability.
Okay, I love that. And I think there's a distinct difference. For the majority of people that I actually service, I can help them pre-plan, which means they're going to pick out, what type of service that they want for their end of life celebration, whether it's a cremation or it's a burial, and then just some, just all of the nuances that go with that, different merchandise and things like that, and services that they want to pay for in advance so that it's already set aside. But in what you do, just a little bit different than in what I'm doing. And either way, they're covered. And that's the part that I'm trying to really convey is that, depending on the situation and the individual, what's best for them is the route that we're going to go. So what is it that you see that there's the biggest difference between the special considerations type of planning that we do differently than we're doing at South Care?
Whereas with special considerations, we are simply setting aside the funds in a policy, and they can set aside whatever amount they want to, provided that it is within the policy parameters, but they don't have to choose all the details associated with their funeral or cremation. Now, one thing that's very important, both in the product that you use and the product that's used by special considerations, is when somebody has some type of government benefits, like Medicaid or Medicare, or they're trying to go into a nursing home, it's incredibly important that these policies be irrevocably assigned so they are not considered a resource or an asset by Social Security.
Okay, so it's like more like the Medicaid spin down in some cases.
Yep, exactly. You'll see that most often when somebody needs to qualify to go into a nursing home. But if they're already in there and maybe they haven't pre-planned, then definitely whenever you're working with them, you'll want to make sure they're irrevocably assigned. Most often, we do work with individuals that want to spin down, but it's not because they're going into a nursing home, but they have too much money in their account and they need to spend down that money. And, they could go out and buy some other stuff, but they can also set aside funds for, the inevitable, and then they can use that at any funeral or cremation provider nationwide.
Is it not a trust? I mean, I don't know, like, really what the verbiage would be in terms of what's the difference. I mean, this is just more or less monies that's prepaid to the side.
I don't know if you're familiar with the POMs, but when you look at the POMs, there are several different definitions of what a pre-need is. You have an insurance-funded pre-need. You can have a trust-funded pre-need. You can also have what they call burial insurance, and it is an insurance policy that is specifically for burial expenses. But there's some very clear verbiage in there as to how it is counted towards or against an individual. And you were spot on a while ago. It actually helps them preserve their government benefits, because when they do a spend down or they spend some of that money from their account, then they're showing that they still need the continued support that they're getting, so they're not going to lose their benefits.
Right.
But yeah, no, you were spot on in that. But it is actually an insurance policy that is irrevocably assigned into a funeral expense trust.
Of course, there's no proceeds going to the family, anything like that. It's going to be assigned directly to whichever funeral home they choose. Hopefully, if I'm working with them, it would be South Care. If not, it could be any funeral home. All funeral homes accept this?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, because it is through one of the major pre-need carriers in the U.S. It's a phenomenal proprietary product, and it is payable directly to the funeral home. And one thing to note is, if there are any funds left over, those funds go back to the estate of the insured. They do not go to family members. They don't go to anybody else. They go back to the estate of the insured, because most of these situations, they were, receiving government benefits. So there's going to be a Medicaid payback or clawback provision in that state. So we need to make sure those funds go back to where they need to.
Okay. So I love that you mentioned that. So the one thing that I really wanted to just really convey in regards to this topic is that having a pre-arranged plan will actually help you with your Medicaid spend down, and also will be something that your government fund should not be affected by, because it is an allocated resource. Now, the other part that I just really wanted to just have you on today, just really overall, just to say that I know that this can be a challenge for a lot of people. They don't realize that there are different types of resources out there, even creatively, outside of a traditional life insurance policy, that can still help accomplish these same goals, when it comes to just having the resources to bury or to cremate someone at the end of their life. I think that's just really important, because I met a few people that just said they never even had any life insurance because, like, as a child, their child, was born with Down syndrome, so they were automatically disqualified from a traditional life insurance. I was amazed at how many people just maybe are not covering a loved one because of that.
Yeah. Well, we firmly believe everybody should have a dignified end of life. I mean,
Right.
they really should. And here's the reality. A lot of these individuals do have funds in their accounts that can pay for that. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason for them not to have this type of coverage, as the state limits go up, they're able to add to it if they want to. And in your case, someone may choose, let's say, a cremation that's $3,500, and then a couple of years down the road, they can come back and add to that if they want. They may want an additional urn or whatever, and they may need to do that in order to preserve their government benefits. But you're 100% right. So many people think that they're ineligible because they are special needs, right, and they're simply not. These are guaranteed issue products.
Got you. I love that. Thank you so much, Celise, for shining a light on this subject, being a resource for me, and also an advocate for our community, and how we can be a service to help our clients, especially if they're having any challenges dealing with either their, health conditions or even previous, challenges of being covered. I think that this is a great way to, change someone's mindset on what's available, and just a way to help those that were just not aware. So I appreciate you being on today. And until the next time, you guys, I love you and I mean it. Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a big favor. Please like, share, and subscribe to the #1 insurance resource that has you covered from the womb to the tomb for all things health and wealth. Until the next time, I love you and I mean it.